AfterBuzzers, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. Season 2 is back. And in true Netflix fashion, we binge watched ourselves. So today we're talking all about episodes 1 through 5. So stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yes.
We need
Get
some
the air
animation.
guitar.
Come on, Bill.
Here, Liberty Bell and Zoya just dance to it. Yes.
Only Liberty Bell knows how to dance,
Oh,
honey.
excuse me, Zoya.
Zoya
I am
break
Zoya.
dance. Zoya knows how to break
She did break dance this season. What's up, everyone? Thanks so much for joining us. The OG panel is back. Season 1 panel, all of us have returned for season 2. The gorgeous ladies of wrestling kicked it into high gear this season. So thank you for joining us. My name is Candice Cruz.
I'm Rakong.
I'm Little Egypt.
And I'm Bill Hanstock.
Guys, there's so much to cover.
I know.
So I feel like we should just jump
Let's
right
do
in
it. Let's
Yeah.
to
do it.
episode 1. I loved where they picked up, and obviously we had a lot of tension left off at the end still of season 1, and going into it I feel like Ruth still is trying to find like her calling, as well as a lot of the girls going into the open-endedness of whether or not their season was going to get picked up, and first day jitters in general going back into the new season and getting picked up. How did you guys feel about episode 1 in general?
I think it set the tone for this season, and that's something that definitely through the first 5 episodes we've seen so far, talking about the end of the first season ending with the pilot and then finally culminating in the wrestling show that they worked all the first season to try and put together. But now that the audience of the show understands what they're making and the wrestling business a little bit, now we can get more into the in-depth lives of these characters and what they're going to deal with going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we were talking about that out before we came in to do this panel, is that I'm really excited because throughout episodes 1 and 5, we really see an arc for almost all of the characters. We haven't seen every single one of them develop completely, but we have seen a lot more of each of them. It's not very Ruth and Debbie centric as it was in season 1, which is understandable because that's the underlying theme still a little bit. There's still that tension of that relationship, but I really liked going into the episode 1 and seeing the camaraderie of these women finally come together and become a team rather than just individual women figuring out the characters and their characters in glow as the ladies.
And the
Right.
show's already proven that it's really egalitarian in the sense of, like, in season 1, we paid a lot of attention to, besides the main characters, we paid a lot of attention to Sheila, paid a lot of attention to Britannica, and we paid a lot of attention to Melrose and Machu Picchu. And those are sort of the 4 characters we're not seeing as much of this season. And then Cherry as well. So it's nice that we saw those characters a little bit showcased, and now we're seeing the other characters showcased in this season.
And we got a new one.
Yeah.
We got a
Yes.
we got a Mexican
Yolanda.
wrestler. Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Love
Yo-Yo,
it.
junk chain number 2.
She's amazing, and I was so lucky to get to talk to her at the premiere that we all got to go to a couple of days ago for Glow for the launch party, and got to talk to Shakira, who plays Yolanda, because she is not only a Latina, the first Latina on the Glow group of this season in this show, but she's also LGBTQ,
Yep.
which she comes out in episode 2, I believe. I know we're skipping episodes, but
Well, we're getting there though.
Yeah.
We're covering the whole
Yes,
episodes
exactly.
1 through
1 through
5. So
5,
like
no
anything
spoilers.
kind of goes. So
yeah, but I love that she's kind of having to prove herself. A little bit.
Well, no.
I threw you for a loop there.
No. Right, when you're saying prove yourself, right? Like there is that point of where it's just like everybody's like, wait, who are you?
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, I'm a new person. It's like, wait, what are you doing here? And then there's a point of where like you almost see like a slight version of bullying, except for the fact that then Ruth jumps in and says like, no, come on, guys, come on, let's go do something fun.
What's like almost going to a brand new school in the middle of like of your senior junior year of like everyone's got their family and their clique, and then this random new person is coming in and we have to include her.
Well, it's not just the new kid in town, but it's also the pro wrestling and television thing of, oh, someone's been recast.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I was hoping that you would tell us a little bit about, being there with the original Glow Girls and talking about the fresh blood that comes in.
Right. Well, I was like a YOLO. I came in at the end of season 2 of Glow. And so they were already, they formed their bonds, they had their sisterhood. I was in awe. And much like YOLO, I just kind of, I understood as I walked in that this wasn't my house, that I had to earn my way in. And I think that that's what YOLO was doing. She maybe had a rocky start in the first, introduction to the girls, but then she kind of pulled back and she realized that she has to earn her space.
I guess another thing, it's not even the introduction of her, but more of where's Cherry? Like they all send, it's just like it's not just so much like an introduction of a new person, but it's also like, where's our other friend?
Yeah.
Maybe she could have come in as a different character, and maybe it might have been just a little bit easier, but since it's like, well, no, Cherry was junk chain.
Yeah, we had that in Glow, actually. There was a lot of characters like Dementia that was replaced with another Dementia. It wasn't the first time. Cheerleaders coming and going, and it almost became normal. But it's not showing as normal yet because YOLO's the first one to do it.
And this is something that pro wrestling fans have been dealing with forever, is having a character be replaced. Normally it's a character that's in a mask or a face paint or something.
Yeah.
It's not someone who's so like a black character becomes a Latina character. It's not quite that drastic.
I know.
Yeah.
And we were a little bit more subtle too in our show. Dementia had a mask.
One of the other, while we're talking about representation in this season, the one thing that I'm probably the most I don't want to say excited, but the most grateful for this season is continued attention paid to the issues of representation within the show, and how the pro wrestling business, especially in the 1980s, dealt with stereotypes and representation, as opposed to how the people behind the scenes felt about that. So I think that, obviously this series is being viewed through a lens of people today writing about and looking back at the representation of the time and viewing it and commentating on that through that lens of retrospective. But I mean, it was definitely something that was felt at the time as well by the performers, I'm sure. But in the first season we talked about, Welfare Queen revealing, I have a son that goes to Stanford, I'm this person, I'm not the person I'm portraying. But now we're actually getting into the nuts and bolts of how does this portrayal affect the person that's portraying the character?
I agree, and I think it affects on all ends of the spectrum. I think including, Debbie and Liberty Bell, because I think every person has to accept what they're perceived as within this world rather than what they perceive themselves to be, which is a really hard pill to swallow. But I did like the camaraderie that they did end up having when they went to the mall and kind of put all of those, they almost started to embrace the characters that they've been endowed with, that they've been given, and realize that they are characters and kind of owned up to it. And we got to see Ruth kind of put on the producer hat, even though she's not allowed to.
She's many different hats. It's like writer, producer, director. It's kind of like what she was just like. Let's just go do this. Let's just go do that. Not necessarily I wouldn't say it's calculated. Not that she is deliberately doing it, but it's just kind of just accidentally happening because she's, as we've learned, she's just a person with a lot of ideas.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I loved about the mall scene was that it was really organic and unscripted, and that's how it was for us. We got to develop a lot of that stuff. I mean, we did have lines on certain skits, but there was one of the food fight scenes and things where we had the glow games. That was all us against them. It was so fun, and I think they did a fantastic job at loosely representing that part of the show. It meant a lot to me as a viewer.
You know who I do feel sorry for, though? And I think I've always felt sorry for her, is a little bit of Ruth. I feel like I know that she did a bad thing in season 1, all this other stuff. But I've even watched interviews of Alison Brie where she had to humanize her, obviously.
Yeah.
And I really feel empathetic for Ruth going into season 2 because she really just is trying to do her best. She's just trying to help.
Yeah.
And it's, like you said, it's not calculated. It's not under an agenda. It's genuinely just trying to have the backs of all these women and enjoy her job. This is the first time that she's had any type of publicity or an acting role. And she's just trying to bring the camaraderie between everybody, but yet continually get shot down in every direction. It just kind of sucks for her.
I mean, true too. It's like when you see Ruth in season 1 and you look at her and every being that she is, it's like, yeah, you don't ever look at her as, she had a lot of girlfriends and she had a lot of people to hang out with.
Right.
I mean, hence why she made all those poor choices
Mm-hmm.
in season 1, or that we learned about with her, is because I didn't have those types of friendships. Now she does, so it's like cultivating this friendship and common bond with everybody.
What did you guys think about the firing?
yeah.
Sam
Yeah.
sacked the Viking.
Oh.
Did that hurt? It hurt me.
Yeah.
I was like, ouch. I've actually seen
Have you
that.
seen that?
Yeah, I saw that firsthand.
I was, because I was looking forward to Vicky's character, or Reggie, Viking
Reggie.
Vicky,
Yeah.
Reggie. I was looking forward to
Yeah.
seing more of her character because last season it was a lot of Ruth, Debbie, and Sam. So I was just like, okay, this is season 2, so you're either going to build some other characters. So I was looking forward to seeing, and then all of a sudden it's like, bye bye, and Bill,
Very
it's like
fast.
you said, it happens in real life anywhere. In wrestling, and
Yeah.
you make somebody mad and a person in a position of power.
Well, I think that's what bothered me so much, is to see that this was the first time really we've seen the power dynamic between men and women play out. We saw a little bit of it in season 1, but to see that deliberate, like, I am trying to pull the upper hand, I'm a man, you are a woman, you gonna try and say something, sorry, you're gone. Like, to really see, and it's not even just the power dynamics, it's the emasculating element that Sam felt.
Good word.
Of feeling like he's already feeling insecure
Yeah.
because he's not getting what he's wanting. He hasn't had as successful of a career as he's wanted.
Was that a Freudian slip?
It was, I guess, inadvertently. Sure.
For Sam, I mean, it is.
I mean,
kind
Sam,
of,
kind of, if we're talking about Sam.
Yeah.
But he's just got this daughter sprung upon him that's a 16. She's 16 or 17.
16. I think she's 16, right?
And the poor guy, like, I can understand his perspective as well, but the way that he dealt with it was just completely.
It's misdirected though. Like in times, sometimes like when in the heat of the moment, when you're angry, sometimes like your anger gets misdirected, and unfortunately, right? Like the good thing for Reggie or Viking Vicky, she was standing up for all of them,
Right.
but she was in the line of.
But
anger.
ultimately, shouldn't it have been Ruth? If he's really mad about the situation, but he knows that he has to have Ruth.
Yeah.
So if he's trying to pull the power dynamic of, like, don't step out of line, let me take the weakest link that's standing up and pull you out of the game.
Exactly.
Definitely. Well, someone in chat saying the character Debbie shined this season, and I think we all agree.
Yeah.
Just to let the viewers know and the listeners know, Candice hasn't watched past episode 5
No,
yet.
I've only seen episode
I haven't
5.
watched past episode 8 yet, so some of us are in different places right now. But I do want to say that I like that the theme of this season is growth and change, and there are at least 4 characters that go through massive shifts over the course of the season, and it's really amazing to watch. And I know that in episode 7 I was definitely moved to tears by a character development, but we'll get to that next week.
Right, yeah, we're only coming up to
Right.
episode
Right.
5, and I mean, it's kind of clear even from episode 1 with Debbie that she's going through that divorce.
Yeah.
Like now, like her marriage is completely like, we're not working it out anymore, we're getting divorced, and her trying to navigate, right, a divorce, a baby, and then, right, this like weird wrestling career that's not acting when she was on whatever show she was like in that soap opera show that she was on where she was like kind of a star and got written off of.
Well, I think too, as well, going into Debbie, it's not even just a divorce. It's a development of yourself as a person when you don't have that other person that you identified yourself with. You no longer have the person that you were his wife. Now you have to be 100% your person in the 80s, trying to be a woman. And like, even going into episode 2 when she walks into the room with Sam and he's like, oh, you want to be a producer now? No, I am a producer.
Yeah.
And to figure out, because it's not only just like proving yourself to anyone else, it's proving it to yourself that, can I really do this? And almost like playing it, fake it till you make it. I feel like you see a lot of that within Debbie. But going into episode 2 and talking about character development, we do get to see these girls kind of develop their own characters on Glow more, because now they've cut down the time. Not everyone's going to be fighting. Was there ever a time where you guys had to actually like audition ahead of time to see who was going to be wrestling, and or did you just get assigned?
We got assigned, but they taped us all on the same day, and then they would just decide when they're going to roll out the footage. We had one day of taping a week where Matt was, Sam was doing, Sam's doing a one day, every day a show, and he's trying to do one a week and send out his footage. We weren't working like that. We had one shoot day, and then.
Well, here's something that like, this is what kind of led Debbie to the producer role, because she brings, we find out she brings out her husband, who's a William Morris business affairs guy, and they haggle everything because the contracts come out. And these contracts are so crappy. So, I mean, Little Egypt, how was when you guys got the contract? Was there any negotiating? Was it like, you either want it, you sign it, or forget it?
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Are you
actually
ready?
like, yes.
I mean, the fans want this.
I
wanna
want to
know?
know.
Okay. I never signed a contract. How do you like that? Never signed a contract. Just showed up, went into training, ended up on television. I don't know if they
Somehow
forgot.
got paid.
Got paid every week and went on tour, did everything, and never had a contract signed.
Yeah.
I think they did contracts initially, maybe in the very beginning, or maybe during when the cast rolled over and we had a new cast for season 3 and 4. But
That boggles my mind.
that's so 80s.
So
It's so 80s, right? Like how many wrestlers went into they didn't they were doing the
almost every wrestler was doing a handshake deal.
exactly
But
right.
that's a safety precaution as well. Not only like financially, you need to get an agreed amount and have something to stick to it, but like if something happens to you on the job, what?
I actually got hurt on the job, and our hotel provided the workman's compensation.
Nice.
So
Well, that was very nice of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Well, because you're on like ground, like
Yeah,
the public
I'm on-
grounds
I'm
of
on
the place. So
casino.
Okay, that makes
yeah,
sense,
otherwise
yeah.
that's even worse.
yeah,
For like,
yeah.
And that's something that most wrestlers at the time didn't have. They
Yeah,
couldn't, if they
I
got
was
hurt
lucky.
on the job.
I was lucky that I could get my knee taken
Right.
care of. Crazy though, right? When I was like, yep, I never signed a contract.
But it's interesting, the contract thing, because that's in the wrestling business, that's something that's been a sticking point since the 70s.
Yeah.
Is like wrestlers can't be insured medically, and the issue of unionization has been a very sticky issue for almost 40 years now. So it's like something that's very glossed over in Glow, but it has to be, because there's way too much to get into.
Yeah.
And they got a story to tell.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, Little Egypt, did you have like women that were there that like we saw in episode 2 where Beirut clearly doesn't want to be Beirut,
Right.
and then this is where we see the beat down biddies
Steal their.
steal her idea. They change into the toxic twins of Nuke and Ozone,
Which
Yeah.
I love.
Did that
Right.
ever like go on behind the scenes, or did everybody just kind of accept their roles and?
Yeah, we accepted our roles because, like when Sam said, everyone here is replaceable. That was something we knew when we showed up. That not only did we know we were replaceable, but we saw ourselves getting replaced. Like girls would get hurt, and someone else would cut. There were 3 farmers' daughters. We just called them different names. There was Sally, Amy, and Babe.
We met last season.
So yeah. So I mean, it was just like it was so easy just to to show you that you were replaceable. So that was
Especially with no contract. That's an
Yeah.
easy switcheroo kind of thing.
Yeah.
We've got a question for Little Egypt from the chat that goes in with the development that the girls in Glow, and I believe in episode 2 they have to start auditioning their matches.
Yes.
Is that indeed in episode 2? Is that what
Yes,
happened?
Yeah. That's where like
Yeah.
everybody like kind of picks
We're
what
moving
their
along now.
their storylines
So
are.
they wanted to know, were the original Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling ever told that your matches were too long? Were you ever given feedback as far as putting matches together that's not working?
so crazy. You should say that because our matches could be in upwards of 15 minutes
Right.
back then. It was so crazy.
Wow.
We
It's long, yeah.
we gave
It's
that.
long.
Yeah, it was long. But wasn't that kind of true to the time? Weren't those
Absolutely,
matches like
yeah.
that's what we did? We just
How
did
long
them.
was a typical show of Glow?
It was an hour show. It was an hour show.
Okay, well then I guess
Yeah.
that makes sense if you do.
No, because
15
Bill,
minutes,
I
you
want to
have
say like
about
the
4 or 5 matches.
headlining act usually for back in the 80s, like when they syndicated it. I want to say the headlining act at the end of the episode, say it was like Hulk Hogan versus Iron Sheik or something. That would be like a 15-minute match, but a standard match wouldn't be 15 minutes.
Well, you're talking about on TV, no. But in the house show, which is where the 80s, the business lived and died, was the live show. That was what it was.
Yeah.
Now we think about wrestling as a TV product.
Yeah.
But back in the 80s, it was anything but. TV was just a byproduct to get TV was the commercial to get people to the live shows. So at the live shows, you would have every match go 18, 20 minutes, and then the main events would be like 25 or 30. And in the 70s, all the main events went 60.
Yeah, right. Crazy. I think ours were probably averaging around 10 minutes, but now today in the women's division, you can't
There's
even
so many.
get, that's
There's so
a lot
many,
of airtime.
Yeah.
If you think about it, that's actually really incredible for us to have that.
Well, it's interesting too, going into the live element and that being a thing of the 80s, of them trying to keep the audience interested, which they talk about a little bit in episode 2, I believe, still.
Candy of the year.
Where they do the candy. Was that, like, how was it? Because you came in season 2, though, rather than season 1. Did
I
you
actually came in the end of season 1, I'm sorry.
Okay,
And
end of season 1,
and I
going into
worked-
season 2.
yeah.
Was there ever that time where the audience was literally like you were trying to build up the audience rather than the other way around?
So crazy, we wanted the audience to love us. Like, it really bothered us when, I was a baby face, and if I was getting booed, I couldn't, I was just like, what? But hey, there's some heels that are really more popular than baby faces, like Nanuchka we had some other heels that the audience just loved, and you just knew that you weren't going to be the favorite of the day. It bothered me. It really bothered me. I came out belly dancing. I wanted them to love me, man. I would just take as much time as I can to work the audience. We wanted to hear like the reaction of the fans, like when we took a good bump, and if you could even hear from the fan reaction if you were taking too long, and then you could speed things up, and we're losing them. Let's just
That's amazing.
No, I mean something that's
Live
crazy.
theater.
Something that's crazy about episode 2, and I had to when I rewatched from episode 1 to 5 again today before coming here. I didn't notice that because it's so small, but it's there that Carmen, because of her brother, is the new trainer. And yeah, which I thought was I was like, oh, that's because Cherry's gone.
Yeah.
Because Cherry was the original trainer. And I mean, I was like, oh, okay. And then and I love how little girls are like dibs, 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 dibs. And then it's Ruth is like sitting there and like, no. I was like, Yolanda and I need help with Carmen because she doesn't know how to wrestle at all, which leads to their whole crazy. Your favorite scene?
I loved the break dancing. I thought it was amazing.
It was great.
Did anyone ever do any type of sketchy kind of thing rather than wrestling?
Yeah, we did actually a
Because
lot.
I know you had the horse.
No,
Oh yeah, no, but like
You didn't in particular.
Nanuchka and Susie Spirit both were professional dancers, and they actually did a dancing skit.
That's
That was
awesome.
one of the promos. So it's just I mean they were utilizing their talents every way that they could, and it was so really on point. That's why I was saying earlier. I think even though it's loosely based on our story, somebody's channeling. There's somebody sending these messages to these writers that are like they're hitting home runs with the way that it was for us. And to me, that made me feel really good. It made me feel like, wow, not only I know you're not trying to tell an authentic story, but the message is getting out that we did feel this way. And it was at sometimes like you didn't know if you were showing up and if it was your last day of work. You never knew. You never knew because you could have got hurt too.
Yeah.
And you're on this fine line of if I could just survive to the next week.
Well, you also even mentioned that you used to do PSAs, which is something that they did in episode 3.
Yeah.
That the network and what was the organization again? The Conservative
Mothers
Women of
of-
America.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Conservative Mothers or Women?
It was Concerned Mothers of America.
Yeah. We had the Jewish League after us.
Oh, yeah?
Oh
For what?
yeah. I think
gosh.
it was. I think it was dementia caused a lot of problems. We had a wrestler named Dementia, and so
right.
yeah.
Okay, it took me for a second. I was
Sure.
like, does someone have dementia on the team?
No, right, but I can see how that's. Yeah, I can see how that's.
Yeah. So that.
And the housewives are a little bit
Oh yeah.
nebbishy.
You just love them.
Yeah.
Don't you just love them? And I love how in the show they got these alternative characters, which was yay! Because I love Chainsaw and Spike. I love
Yes.
that
So good.
edginess, and they're doing a great job. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get them in the studio so we can talk to them.
Oh, Kimmy Gatewood and Rebecca Jones.
Yeah,
Yes,
let's
the
do
best.
it.
They were great. We got to talk to them the other day, and they were fantastic.
Yeah.
But I, going into the whole PSA element though, were how politically correct were the PSAs of that era? Because clearly they really just went full on speed ahead with this
Yeah.
particular PSA that they did in
It was
episode
a
3.
weird idea. I really.
It was.
I was like,
I
what is
mean,
going
now
on?
if you put it in 2018, I'd be like, they did not
Yeah.
just do that.
Yeah.
Well, it would no,
Don't
'cause
have the kid.
No, in 2018 it would be like one of those crazy funny virals like that. It would go viral because it's so
Right,
ridiculous.
because it's so
Yeah.
ridiculous, and you would be like, they did not. Okay, all right, sure, it's funny now.
Our PSAs came out in the 3rd and 4th season, I think, after a slew of letters, and that was another thing they were showing, that we were getting all these fan letters, and that was subjective. The letters were absolutely coming in, but not everyone got their letters.
Wait, not everybody got their letters?
Not everyone got their letters, and a lot had to do with them. Yeah, well, think about this. If you're trying to control women and trying to tell them that they're replaceable, you don't want to give them all their fan letters to let them know that they are really worth more than what you're paying them. And so it's a lot of psychology goes on behind the scenes of what was actually happening. And now that I'm older now and I've had a lot of business experience, it doesn't surprise me that things like that had to happen in order for them to keep these women in control.
Right.
I'm not saying it was right.
No, not at all. No,
no.
I didn't even know that. That's mind blowing.
Yeah.
To think that to think that you didn't maybe there's letters out there like that you never saw. And I mean,
Yeah.
and maybe it's like
Yeah.
some little kid just like saying you're my hero, thank you so much, and it's like in some it was.
Well, and there was also some bad letters too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, there's
also-
always
yeah.
haters.
I mean, obviously. I
death
think,
threats and stuff like that. And Anushka had to be really careful because she couldn't go on tour with us. Like, she couldn't do any of the promos with us because literally people would want to take her out on behalf of good old America.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Crazy.
guess
That's
that
right.
makes sense.
USA. Wait.
That's right.
USA.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
just,
People believed it. Man, they believed it.
I love how indicative that, like you said, they're channeling it, is that they're really being true to the time frame.
Yes.
But also, we were talking about it earlier as well, is that it's interesting watching it through the 2018 lens of how a lot of it is still very prevalent. It's just we see it a different way. Like going into episode 5, which we'll talk about a little bit later if you keep watching, is where we talk about obviously now what we know as the Me Too movement that was also very prevalent in the 80s that has consistently been coming through. But I also feel like the 80s and the time that we're in now were both very revolutionary eras within time that we're seeing a lot within this show, that a lot of things were being brought up. Stereotypes were challenged.
Yeah. So what did you think when Ruth has this conversation with Debbie and she's like, this, almost like, girl, you're not going to believe what happened to me. And then she finds out that that was not the reaction.
Oh,
that she was
skipping into
looking-
episode 5? Whew.
Yeah.
Well, are we ready to skip to
I
episode
don't
I mean,
know.
no, I mean, no,
I think we only
that's
have
fine.
15 minutes.
No, it's fine. We're covering
Why not?
all. We're
We're
covering
covering
all
all of
of
it.
1 on through 5. So like, yeah, that was like one of the big topics.
That's
Yeah.
the big
That's
one.
the
Yeah, it's a
big
big cultural
egg
topic,
right there.
and yeah,
Yeah, what's the men's, actually, I do want to hear this. What is the men's perspective of both of the 1980s situation, taking it as a 1980s situation, and also viewing that particular bungalow incident through the lens of Me Too in 2018?
I mean, the situation is completely right. Like, I mean, I was even with a friend of mine last night. She's 23 and pretty, and told me this story of how she got harassed on a carpet. And I was like, "Did you know the guy?" And she's like, "No, he just." And I was like, "Wow, I couldn't believe it." And so, like, watching the show, I'm just like, it's the 80s, absolutely.
Wow.
The part where Debbie, I was surprised and I wasn't surprised because it's writing for this era right now. So, like, writing for this era now, yeah, you would want to see Debbie get behind Ruth and say, yeah, that's, whatever. But instead, she went the opposite way. It's like, no, you flirt with them a little. Like, you don't have to sleep with them. You can do all these things. So, like, I was a little surprised, but I wasn't, because that probably was very true of the 80s. It's probably still true now on some ends. I mean, which is unfortunate.
I don't think I can't give the typical man's perspective because I'm pretty atypical when it comes to that respect. But as Rick was saying, like I felt that the conversation with Debbie was very much a contemporary take on the situation, where the one empowered woman in the situation has the opposite take of what you would expect. So I felt that was sort of the writers subverting our expectations and maybe not necessarily entirely true to the time period. But I think that it's horrible, and I know for a fact that it still happens all the time, constantly, and especially in the wrestling business. A lot of basically every woman who's in the wrestling business has had to deal with scummy people. I can't speak for you, obviously, but every woman that I know who's in the wrestling business has had to deal with some really horrible stuff, not just from the people in charge, although it makes it very hard for women to make a living in wrestling just being wrestlers, but also from fans, just like all the way up and down. Because it's that's the thing about the ruling class, is that they're going to oppress the people underneath them. So it's just a horrible situation that we're starting to see some positive movement. Unfortunately, we're starting to see some very negative movement at the same time. And it's real unfortunate, but I really appreciated Glow going into this area in the fifth season and second season, the fifth episode, and you will see later that there will be someone else who subverts expectations when it comes to this topic coming up. So,
were you surprised that Sam Sylvia's character wasn't a little bit more? Well, I thought for sure, like this, he could have taken so many liberties with so many of the cast members for those spots. I mean, that's actually credible to his character. But I was like,
definitely,
why, if he's like got this, you're everyone's replaceable. Yeah. Why isn't he playing that angle? He could get away with it. He could so get away with it.
It's interesting about Sam that he's such a for so much of the season, for so much of the show, he's such a despicable, unlikable guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he sleeps with Britannica. He develops a relationship there, and a lot of the women view her as getting preferential treatment in season 1. Mm-hmm. Then in season 2, you find out that Yolanda is replacing Cherry, and she got the job because Sam met her at a strip club. And so Britannica gets very, jealous or offended.
Yeah, right.
And the expectation is there that, Sam's just sleeping with another girl and that's how he met her. But then you find out that he's not sleeping with her at all. In fact, she's a lesbian.
Right.
So that's sort of a weird through line of Sam, is that he's a heinous person. He does terrible things. He doesn't know how to relate to people. But rarely is he like sleeping around with the women to.
Well, no, but I'm wondering too, though, is that because though, as we've seen for this season, and something that I talked to Britt Barron about on the carpet, is her character has a different turn. Like, we haven't really seen her wrestle yet. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about Sam's dynamic with like Justine. Mm-hmm. So it's like he's got a daughter now.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a little bit of like
changes his perspective.
Yeah, it's like not everybody's meat.
And I think it also changes his perspective, that relationship he had with Britannica, because he saw how things changed and it affected the dynamic of his show to be in that situation, and how people looked at him and how they looked at her. So I think that really the through line with Sam is that he allows his emotions and his bad personality to lead him into different situations, and he makes bad decisions all the time. And because a lot of the Britannica thing was she flirted with him initially, and so he was like, well, why not? And that's, he's a bad guy and he's like a jerk and makes horrible decisions. But that specific decision, it was just sort of another like, well, why the hell not? I'll see it. I'll try it and see if it works. And it didn't work out, because nothing works out with Sam, because he's a despicable guy who doesn't like himself. So why would his relationship work out? So I just think that's an interesting thing about Sam, is that like you would expect another character to just sleep his way through all these women or whatever.
Or maybe he has feelings for Ruth. Did you see at the end of episode number 2?
It's
you
a
saw
weird look. There's like this kind of like it's a weird look.
Yeah,
the fact that he is taking her under his wing as much as he is, even though with a stiff arm, I think it does prove that he has some type of
Their personalities are so similar and clash that I think that Sam can't stand someone who's so much like him. And she's very abrasive and very unlikable through a lot of this series. But I think it's also that Sam does recognize that she's the only other person in the room who cares as much as he does.
Yeah.
So he knows that he needs her.
True. I mean, there's just so much that went on throughout this entire first 5 episodes. We didn't even touch on Bash and going into the club trying to find Florian. We didn't even touch into
like
Debbie,
Cherry, we find
Cherry.
we see Cherry.
Oh,
She's a
yes.
bad. I mean, she's a badass, but she's a bad actress, right?
Yeah.
So we missed on
Yeah.
that. There's so much to cover, and we're running out of time. It's just
Well, I would just like to say about Cherry Bang and her. I loved watching her and her husband interact with each other. And did you just fall in love with her husband?
They're the best.
They are. I was just like, oh man, he's so good to her.
You
He's
don't
so
see
sweet.
enough of those, actually. You don't see enough of those on TV where they're genuinely partnerships and relationships where he's like, what kind of man would I be? I'm your partner. What's going on? You don't see a lot of that.
Right.
Even in this time period of where we see with Debbie's relationship where there's the power dynamic of like, I'm the husband, you're the wife, versus Cherry and her husband have that friendship.
Yes.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Which I think we need to see more of in general.
Yeah.
But to see their playfulness, loved it.
Oh my
It was
God.
fantastic.
It was the best.
No, I mean, and then we had like comedy. Like we had some fun where. It's kind of a weird storyline, but it's really funny. Is like Melrose and Fortune Cookie and like the whole like I'm constipated, I've got a secret, I've got an Asian secret, and it's like give me your jacket, and all of a sudden they're all like she's like you stole my guy. I mean that's pretty just like adding the other characters. It's pretty funny.
I mean, we still technically are a comedy show and on the comedy channel of AfterBuzz TV.
So yeah, exactly.
Glow
Jackie's
is a
great.
comedy, and I like
exactly.
I like that about the show is that it's a comedy, and it wouldn't be true to the source material if it wasn't a comedy.
Because we were a comedy show.
Because you were asking about the PSAs and stuff,
Yeah.
and if you're interested in the original Glow and you haven't done so, I encourage people to go to YouTube and look up all the skits, because there's compilations of just the skits. There's full episodes, and it's so heavy on comedy and goofy skits and just weird adult situations and puns and wordplay.
I know it's the word. We had a joke writer for our writer. It's all he did was one-line jokes, which was so awesome. But also, if you really do want to learn a little bit more about the story of the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, the documentary is also playing on Netflix, which you can watch. I was a producer on that.
If you haven't watched the Glow documentary and you like the show Glow, what are you even doing?
Right.
Yeah.
That's silly.
Exactly.
You gotta go watch that immediately.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of comedies, hey AfterBuzzers, here at the network we produce after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows like Glow, from dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more. There is no network that works harder to serve television fans, but we need your help. We're asking you to please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. Besides helping us a ton, here's what's in it for you. It caters specific content you already like, direct link to you. It brings your favorite after shows so you don't have to seek them out. And it suggests contests from other channels or podcasts that might interest you. Subscribing to our YouTube channels will also help you discover new shows we're sure you'll love. Since you've already tuned into comedy, which is Glow, you might be interested in, Younger, Life Sentence, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which Candice here covered.
Yes,
so,
it was amazing.
If you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be. They're optional, and it's easy. Hit and subscribe that button now, and even easier AfterBuzz experience. And if you let us know that you did in the comments, we'll shout you out on the air. Thanks for being the best fans. We promise to continue to do our best to serve you.
Also, if you are watching on YouTube, we are also on iTunes, so you guys can go on over there and listen to all of these amazing shows on podcasts. And please leave a comment below. Give us a rating. Give us
5
likes.
stars,
All
because
5
the other ones
stars.
don't work. So
Exactly, it's just 5. If you do the other ones, it just doesn't work at all.
you got 5 fingers, so you can give us 5 stars.
Exactly, and make sure that you let us know in the comment section that the Glow After Show panel suggested that you go and listen to us on iTunes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can I ask Little Egypt a question real quick?
Yeah.
Take it away.
Because since the last time we were all together, an original Glow girl was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame.
How cool is that?
So I wanted to
Ferrari.
get your thoughts on it.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, about time. Because Lisa Moretti was a 3-time WWE champion. Her story threads the Glow story with the WWE journey, which is wonderful. It's the only thread out there. And she's just the coolest person. Like, she's done nothing. She's just one of those people that you want to have represent your league. So I was so excited, cried like a baby. It was just beautiful.
You know what I love too is that I'm very grateful that you invited us to actually go to the screening and meet a lot of the original Glow ladies,
Yeah, what was-
Glow girls,
Hang out Lady
women,
Godiva
all of them.
again, hang out
all of
Hollywood,
them.
see Matt Simber. I was like, wow. all
There he
right,
is.
Yeah.
There
The
he is.
stories you heard were just like unreal, but I appreciated it because you got to actually see the camaraderie come to life and to see that even throughout all of this, you all are celebrating the show, celebrating the series, and celebrating the relaunch of it and the new birth of it, and not. It was really refreshing to see, and even to see the new camaraderie of all the new women that at the red carpet the other night, to see them really support one another, because that's what I loved about season 2 so much, as well as that it's more of an ensemble rather than a focus on the 2 leads and then everybody else trickled in. It really does focus on the relationships between all of them as a whole.
Yeah.
So-
Man,
Yeah.
there was so much to talk about. We didn't even touch on Tammy and her relationship with her son.
Well, we can,
Wow,
no,
that
we
was
can, you know, what,
crazy.
you know what? If we want to, we can touch on her character, like at her second after show. It's fine.
Of course.
But yeah, guys, speaking of like red carpets, you know, Candice and I were lucky to be at the season 2 premiere at Muscle Beach, and that footage is currently up on AfterBuzz TV red carpets. You know, so like right now there is, you know, my interviews with Rebecca Johnson, Kimmy Gatewood, Britt Barron, and Jackie Tone. Candice is going to have her footage up in a second too, and she's got Brittany Young, Mariana Palka, Sadell Noel, and Shakira Barrera, and so you can get some like little backstories about their experience being on Glow season 1 and season 2, and what they did the night that on Friday night when it dropped at midnight.
Which was awesome. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed. I know that this was a very rushed overcap of 5 episodes, but we felt that since it did drop on Friday and it is now Sunday, majority of you guys have probably watched the entire series by now.
Goes by really fast.
It goes by really fast.
It's an easy watch.
Yeah, it's a very easy watch, and they're quick, and but they fit a lot in each of the episodes, and I don't know how, but they do. So we felt it would just be right to the fans and the viewers that we would cap it quickly for you guys. So we will be back next week covering episodes 6 through 10.
We'll be back here at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time because we're working on getting a guest at 5 o'clock. We're working on it this week, so we'll let you guys know. But so be sure to tune in at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for the other second half of the season of Glow.
And we will hopefully see you guys next week for both of those. And then we will be continuing on after that. Once we cap the entire series, we will be having a lot of other guests. We're not going to announce the actual dates for those until they are solidified, but we are very excited about the lineup that we have. And obviously, we will be talking more about the show throughout all of those interviews.
Eventually, we'll touch on everything.
Touch on
Yeah.
everything. And
Yeah.
you guys are such an amazing group of fans that really comment in there. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about, obviously. And we will see you guys next week. Again, my name is Candice Cruz. You can find me on all my social media at Candice R. Cruz.
And I'm the Ricky the Dragon Hong. You can find me on all social media at Rick Hong, RACKHONG.
And I'm an original Glow Girl, Little Egypt. You can find me on Twitter at Little Egypt, Instagram, Little Egypt, and Facebook, the Glow-Little Egypt.
And I'm Bill Hanstock. You can find me on all social media at Sundown Motel.
And happy 4th of July to everyone.
Yes.
Be safe, be safe.
Yes, be safe, and we'll see you guys next week.
USA, USA.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Blow you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.